Wow, guys, that was such an amazing movie. Zack Snyder's Justice League is the movie that we all deserve, not that 2017. I don't know what that was. So, if you haven't watched it yet, you definitely have to. And today we're going to talk about it in my non spoiler review of Zack Snyder's Justice League here at the Christian Geek. What's up, YouTube geeks and DC fans? My name is John B, and this is the Christian Geek, where we explore geek culture and how it relates to faith and Christianity. So today we have a special episode. We're reviewing Justice League, the Zack Snyder cut. And boy, can I tell you, wow, it is an amazing cinematic masterpiece. Yeah, I have high praises for this film, and honestly, I'm still processing a lot of these things. The movie just dropped on HBO this Thursday, March 18, and I decided to watch it as soon as I could. But honestly, servers here in Asia, because it's available via HBO Go, couldn't handle the load. So I had to wait for a while before I could actually watch the movie. But, you know, it was worth the wait. Definitely, I enjoyed the movie, and it just blew the theatrical release of Justice League back in 2017. The 2017 version, no contest. No, that was the worst depiction of the Justice League, and this is the best. So if you haven't figured it out, I'm actually a very big fan of DC Comics. I have long been reading and following DC Comics, DC animated series, and if you can see in my background, you should see the animated Justice League, right? So there, I have no words really to describe how happy I am after watching Justice League, the Zack Snyder cut. It's like mind blown, really mind blown. I was so excited to actually watch it. I was so hyped. All the trailers, I watched all the trailers. I watched all the interviews. I watched all the the features leading up to this movie, and boy, I was not disappointed. And I'm so glad that Zack Snyder listened to the fans, decided to push through, and Warner Brothers also listened to the fans and allowed his vision of the Justice League to come out in cinema. And wow. Now, this movie is about 4 hours long, so it's not going to be a quick ride. But one thing I can tell you, the movie is never dragging. There were some parts I think, yeah, you could probably cut it off because it's more of an artistic field. But all in all, I think everything contributed to how solid and how tight this film is. And so you will feel like the time will pass you by and you won't even notice that you've been watching for 4 hours. One thing that I really appreciated with this movie is that Zack Snyder decided to cut the movie into 6 parts. That means each part of the movie is self-contained, so you can easily go ahead and pause after each part if you need to, have a bathroom break or a coffee break, get some snacks, whatever it is, before you continue watching the film. Although Zack Snyder does recommend that you watch the first 4 parts, then go in on your own personal intermission before continuing with parts 5 and 6. Parts 5 and 6 contains the last act of the film and has most of the action, where parts 1 to 4 actually contains a lot of character stories. And I think this is where the movie shines. Because of the 4-hour runtime, there is a lot of room to breathe for the characters to really grow on their own. We actually get to see more character development with our main characters of the Justice League, and we see that their motivations make more sense, their actions are more meaningful, and you really fall in love with these characters. I think the one character that really had the most to gain from this version of Zack Snyder's Justice League is Cyborg. in the original theatrical version and release, we didn't really get to see a lot of Cyborg. We didn't get to see much of his powers. We didn't get to see much of his motivation. We didn't get to see what drives him, what was happening behind the scenes with his dad and his family. But here, we actually see a whole story. We see his mom, his dad. We see what happened to them since the accident, or what happens to Cyborg or Vic Stone, so that his dad had to use the mother box to restore him and save him. Right? And actually there is a lot of recurring themes with fathers in this movie. I don't know. I think there's a lot of father issues, but usually it is the case, right? Fathers are really, really important in the development and upbringing of many people. So it's not unusual to see that, and it is actually a recurring theme that you will see throughout the movie. But going back, we see here that we understand finally why Victor Stone feels the way he feels about his life, about what happened to him being turned into Cyborg, and how his relationship has become between him and his dad. And it's actually an interesting thing to really delve into and understand these characters more. And I think that was cut out. Most of it was cut out in the original theatrical release. So it's a good, refreshing thing to have that in this movie. Barry Allen as well has more to do in this film. He actually has special powers here aside from his speed that really allowed him to be an integral part of the team. He's not just running around, he's not just pushing people away, but he's actually doing something here to make sure things happen. And he actually, in the end, I guess in one way or another, you would say that he was pivotal to their success in this show. Now remember that the movie really still follows the same or similar plot line from the theatrical release. However, because of so many scenes that have been added in this film and the feel and direction feels very different, these two are completely two different movies. And I'm actually having a hard time trying to filter out the things that are, I would consider, spoilers, because there's a lot that is in this movie that you would have not seen in the original theatrical release. So there. Who else do we see here in this guy? So we have, remember, 6 heroes in this movie, and we also see Aquaman, for example, another character that was grossly underdeveloped in the original Justice League, and it was only when he had his own solo film we get to see who Arthur Curry is, or who Aquaman really is. So there's a little bit more development. We see more of his side characters, Vulko and Mira. So you actually see their interaction, and it makes more sense, really. And you even see his interaction with the world, with the town that he was in the original theatrical release, and it's much more fleshed out. It makes more sense why his character would do something, and how the townspeople actually look up to him. So I think in this regard, Zack Snyder really made pains to make sure that we understand him. Then of course you have Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman was first introduced in Batman v Superman as the third character or third superhero in that film, who was also doing her own investigation. And we see a little bit more of her character here, although again we do see her backstory in the Wonder Woman film. What's nice about this version of the Zack Snyder Justice League is that we actually get to see her own character unfold. There was more heart to her. You get to see her pain in the way that she interacted with Cyborg, and even her motivation to really protect this planet and to make sure that the evil or the invasion that they're trying to avoid does not happen. And then of course there's Batman. And I think Batman is one of the most amazing characters ever in DC. And he is actually very different from most of the other characters in DC. in a way that a lot of the superheroes of DC tend to be godlike characters. They tend to also be ones with their beings with a lot of superpowers, and people would actually look up to them as symbols of hope. But Batman was actually created differently, in a way that Batman was more of a symbol of justice, a symbol of fear, that people would cower against if they made a mistake, if they did something wrong. And we actually see in Batman v Superman a version of Batman where has gone old, he has become more cynical, and looks upon Superman or Kal-El as an enemy rather than someone who genuinely wants to save people, who genuinely wants to help. But this changed in the Zack Snyder cut of Justice League, and we actually see that character development. And I really like that they actually put that character development. Truth be told, in this movie, there was more Bruce Wayne than Batman. Because in BVS, in Batman v Superman, we saw Batman fighting multitude of people, gang members, and those action scenes were quite amazing and they were quite good. They were well choreographed, and the cinematics for those fight scenes were really good. We get a little bit less of that, of Batman doing that in this film, but what's more important here is actually Bruce Wayne, because he is determined to keep a promise that he gave to Clark before he died. He wanted to make sure to protect the people that he loves the most and the people around them. And the only way to do that is to assemble these heroes. And even though he is not the most diplomatic person in the world, he makes every attempt to connect with the other heroes in this film and to gather them together. We see here a more seasoned Bruce Wayne. We see more of a tactician. We see more of a leader here who is trying to guide these troops into battle, because he knows that this is their final stand. And so I really like this character development. I also see here that because he is less cynical, he even mentions to Alfred that he has faith, and I really like that. I really like the idea that he talks about faith here. In the original Batman v Superman, he was so cynical about anyone. He even mentions if there was just a 1% chance that this person could be an enemy, then he has to take that as an absolute. And it's so different in this case, where even though they fought against Superman after his revival, which we have seen in the theatrical cut, after his revival, they still fought him because he was not quite right in the head at the time. He still believed, he still had faith that he will come to the rescue. And I think we need to have that. I think a lot of people need to have a little bit more faith that there is a savior, that there is a God. There is a God who will come to save us, who will take care of us, who will never leave us nor forsake us. And I think that's Jesus. That's the God of the Bible. And we need to have that faith as well. We need to have that kind of childlike faith, I guess, to believe that there will be a better day and that our Savior will come to help us. And of course, in this film, the Savior does come. He does come last minute when it seemed all hope is lost. Superman arrives. And Superman, I'm sorry, guys, Superman is one of my favorite characters of all time. And I have followed the mythos of Superman for the longest. And he was originally created to be a messianic character. He is the last son of Krypton. From the heavens above, he arrives as a child, and he is taken care of by this family and grows up to be the savior of mankind, right? And so there are huge parallelisms with Jesus. No one can deny that, and even Zack Snyder tends to really use that in his films when depicting Superman, depicting Kal-El of Krypton. So we actually see that here, and I am actually quite excited to. I was quite excited to see him in this movie. Though honestly, in the runtime of 4 hours, what he was just in the final act, right? So we only get to see him a limited time. While most of the other characters were developed, we only get to see the revived Superman, and that's amazing, right? He died saving Metropolis from Doomsday, and then after his death, he was resurrected, just like Jesus. So you can see the parallelisms there. And so, in this movie, we see a different Superman. He is more confident about what he needs to do. He is more bold in fighting off the enemy, and the enemy here is Steppenwolf. And you see him really that he is going all out. And of course, we also see a version of his suit, the black suit Superman, which is so amazing because this is close to how it was portrayed and characterized in the Death of Superman comic, and even in the animated versions of that scene. Although one thing that I noticed that they did not actually talk about the significance of the black suit Superman, and it's in the comics. It's actually based off the idea that it's a healing suit. The black suit is a healing suit that allows him to absorb more rays of the sun so that he can recover faster and that he can get stronger. Although we do see hints of that when he absorbs the sun's rays in one scene, right? But apart from that, really, they didn't really explain that much, or the movie didn't really explain that much about the black suit significance. But it's a minor thing. It didn't really take away from the movie. So apart from that, and you see the final battle, and one significant change that I really like is that unlike in the original movie, unlike in the original theatrical release where there was people in the town that were trying to get away from the parademons, that's not included in this movie anymore. Barry Allen, for example, the Flash, has a more significant role. Superman doesn't have to stop and save people because Steppenwolf actually decided to put up a base in a location where there aren't any people, where there was supposed like radiation poisoning because of a power plant that blew up. So it's so much different. The ending is so much different. There were more action scenes and fight scenes. I think the fight scenes were actually more epic in this regard. I like the fact that Wonder Woman and Aquaman could fight against Steppenwolf toe to toe. But we also see here the significance of Superman arriving and changing the tide of battle, and making sure that victory was for their team. Other things that I noticed in this film that I really liked is, of course, one of the thing that they didn't show in the original Justice League film is Darkseid. Darkseid is probably one of the biggest baddies in the DC universe, and is probably comparable to Marvel's Thanos. I do wish that they could have fleshed out, Darkseid more. Darkseid just seems like an evil villain. I just want to destroy all worlds. So we don't really see why he's doing this, why he's conquering worlds. And in fact, I think there was more character development with Steppenwolf. To a point, you will actually feel sorry for Steppenwolf here. But you remember at the end, he's still the villain and he's still trying to destroy Earth. So yeah. There are other characters as well that were given focus. We actually get a shot of Apocalypse, or the world of Darkseid. And see his lieutenants. You have Desaad, which traditionally is a right-hand man, and he was a scientist. And then you see Granny Goodness. I was so excited to see Granny Goodness when I saw her first in the trailer. But unfortunately, she didn't have any lines in this film. She was just standing there. But I was excited to see her. I was hoping to see the Valkyries, but yeah, no dice. One thing that's also interesting is that there are a lot of side characters as well, and I think they got a little bit more screen time and a little bit more development. Of course, you have Lois Lane, which probably was the most important side character in this film. She actually got a lot of screen time. if you remember the theatrical version, was one of the keys to make sure that Clark Kent would recover his memories. But that is not the only key that the movie is talking about. But you'll have to watch the movie to understand. Then there's Martha Kent. Martha Kent, who is, of course, the adopted mother of Superman. And it's her role here is pretty interesting. Watch out for it. It's almost a blink it and you will miss it kind of thing. Then you have a special cameo. I won't talk about who it is, but it's a really good cameo, and a lot of people have told me that it blew their minds as well when they saw that cameo. I was kind of expecting it, and I feel like it kind of rounds out your superhero characters, so that's a hit for you there already. Who else? We have Ryan Choi. This is the first time we see Ryan Choi in this film. Wasn't in the theatrical cut, and if you're familiar, Ryan Choi is actually the second Atom, so it's interesting to see what they plan for him. Of course, you have Silas Stone, who is Vic Stone's father. We also even get to see his mom here with a few lines. That's why I say that Cyborg and Victor Stone had more development here compared to the theatrical release. Who else? We have Deathstroke. I wish Deathstroke had more, did more. But, he really looked like Deathstroke. It was a really good portrayal. I would say one of the things that I really don't like is Lex Luthor. I honestly don't think that the actor Jesse Eisenberg really fits the character of Lex Luthor, but I guess we'll have to see. In Batman v Superman, seemed more like another version of Mark Zuckerberg in the social network, so I guess that's why it's so hard to imagine him as Lex Luthor. But we'll see. Maybe in this film, or if in any future installments, he'll get better. Oh, interesting enough, we get to see Joker here, and I won't tell you where exactly because you do see him in the trailers, but it's an interesting and significant role, and it's something that you should watch out when he does come out. Of course, you have Mira and Volko for Aquaman. You have Iris West here, actually. Although she didn't really have much lines except what you have probably seen in the trailers where Barry saves her. Yeah, that's about it, I guess, from the important side characters. Oh, there's also Jim Gordon. But, it's Jim Gordon. They didn't really develop him that much, but he was important to the plotline, I guess. So yeah, Zack Snyder's Justice League is a great film overall. I would probably give it a 9.5 out of 10. I don't believe in giving perfect scores for anything. But it's wonderfully written. It was directed very well. The cuts of the scenes made a lot of sense. There was character development. I think at least for the major characters and some of the minor characters, we actually get to see more of them. Get to see their motivation. We get to understand them better. You feel that you can empathize with them and you can really live through their lives, right? And one thing that I've always enjoyed about characters from DC Comics is that, I guess apart from Batman, that these characters always were symbols of hope. These are godlike beings with superpowers, but they don't use these superpowers for their own good. They are using it to protect the people that they love, to protect the people in their communities. And even though that it may hurt them, and even though that they may even have to sacrifice their lives, they do it because they love the people around them. They believe that is the right thing. For me, that has always been something that is close to my heart. And what's interesting to note as well, that despite their godlike status, they live like normal human beings. They live like normal. They have normal jobs, and they prefer it that way. They actually try to show their humanity despite their godlike abilities. And isn't that like Jesus, where in Philippians 2, it says that he came down in the form of man to be a bondservant, a slave, so that he can be the answer to, and the penalty for that can be the sacrifice for the penalty of sin. So it's really interesting that we see characters like that. Yes, they also have their own struggles, they have their own weaknesses, and I think that's the great part of these characters, is that they're not portrayed just simply as godlike characters, but that they're human as well, and they strive to really love the people around them. That's the amazing thing about DC characters, all in all. So yeah, that is my review of Zack Snyder's Justice League. There is so much more really that I want to talk about, but I think I'll reserve that when I do a more in-depth review and a spoiler review for Zack Snyder's Justice League. I don't know how I'm gonna do that for a 4-hour film, but who knows? So I would suggest that you do watch this film. I would even suggest that you go ahead and watch it with family or friends. Enjoy your time, and it's great to actually discuss, some of the Easter eggs that you will find there, and there are tons of Easter eggs in this film. And obviously, it's 4 hours will just fly on by. It's really worth the wait, worth the watch. And if you haven't watched it yet, go ahead and watch it on HBO Max or on HBO Go. And I hope that you enjoy the film as well. Now, do you agree with me? Do you agree with my assessment? Now, if you do, or don't, comment down below. Let me know. Let's talk about it. Let's discuss. I'm always open to talk about anything geeky, and DC is one of my favorites to talk about. And in fact, truth be told, and don't let the other Marvel fans know, I think DC is better. Okay, just kidding. But yeah, there you go. So if you like this video, make sure to click on the like button, and of course, don't forget to subscribe. Most of my viewers are not subscribers yet, so it will help a lot in the algorithm if you click on subscribe, and make sure to hit the bell for notification of new videos. So I'm so happy to really watch this film, and I'm looking forward to watching it again with friends this weekend. And I hope you are going to do the same thing too. Alright, see ya. Bye-bye.